So you learned the basics of HTML in the last section, and so now it's time to learn the very fundamentals of the second language of the web, which is CSS. So just like we did in the HTML section, let's start this one by looking at what CSS actually is, as well as some common CSS terminology. So first of all, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And just like HTML, CSS is also one of the core technologies of the web. Now remember that we use HTML to basically describe the content of a page. And on the other hand, we use CSS to describe the visual style and the presentation of the content that we previously wrote using HTML. So basically, we use CSS to describe what the page looks like. This means that CSS and HTML work very closely together. And in fact, down here you can see a web page, which is actually the project that we are building in this course. So on the left side, you see only the content, so just the HTML with no visual style at all. But on the right side, you have the exact same HTML code, but with a lot of CSS applied to it. And so that CSS describes the visual style and also the layout of the whole content. Now, as you already know, HTML consists of a bunch of different elements that we can use to describe content. And CSS is, once again, very similar to that, because CSS consists of countless properties that developers can use to format the content. So these properties allow us to format different things about a font, the text, the general spacing, and they allow us to create entire layouts. And there are really lots of different properties. But of course, there is really no need to know all of them by heart. The way that you learn these properties is that you use them over and over again, at least the most important ones, and then at one point they will become very intuitive and almost second nature. Alright, so this is what CSS is all about. So let's now take a look at an actual piece of CSS code. So this is what a typical small piece of CSS might look like. So it always starts with something called a selector. So for example, if we wanted to style all the h1 elements on the page, we need to select it in the CSS, and then we can apply some styles to it. And so each of these styles we can call a declaration. So here in this line, we set the font size to 20 pixels. And so that font size is called a property, and the 20 pixels is the value that we declare for the property. And so property and value together is a declaration or a style. Then all of these declarations together make up the declaration block. So we have these curly braces right after the selector, and then inside of the declaration block is where all the different declarations are placed. So all of our styles. And finally, all of this together, so basically the selector plus the declaration block, is what we call a CSS rule. And so what this means is that in the end, our CSS code will be a lot of different CSS rules, one after another, where we select all of the HTML elements and style them in any way that we want. So let's actually start doing that right in the next video.